Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Welcome to Facebook Live. This is July 29th. I'm pleased to announce that I have our regular guests, Louise and Kelly, with us, and of course, Eileen. And also, super excited to introduce you all to Travis, who has joined the panel today to answer your questions or answer our questions. Welcome to everyone. Welcome, Louise,
Hi, everybody.
Travis, Kelly,
Fine.
and Eileen.
Everyone.
Good evening. An honor and a privilege to have all of you here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One of the things last week that I kind of, I think Eileen may have encountered the question too. I saw on Ryan's feed something about living life through comparison and jealousy, right? And then I don't know if you'll know this poetry writer, book author, Steve Taylor, who Eckhart actually has conversations with. Steve Taylor also posted a poetry on pettiness, right? So I want you all to speak about what do you all think is this living life through comparison, right? And I'll let Louise and Kelly go first, Travis, and then it'll be your turn. And then I have something to say. And also, it ties back into your question to Eckhart, Travis. So I wanted to give everyone an introduction. The way I found Travis was 3 weeks back on our Conscious Manifestation 2020 course. There's a Q&A, and this time what Sounds True is doing is actually having 12 to 15 participants from the course be on Zoom with Eckhart and ask him questions. And I think they randomly pick a couple of people, right? It's not like already designated. So Travis was one of the people, and you asked Travis, you asked Eckhart a question about having this pattern of past conditioning of self-sabotaging yourself, right? So either y'all can talk about self-sabotage and your insights, Travis, about self-sabotage and this living life through comparison. And Eileen, if you have some insights because you already had this conversation with Ryan, then you're more than welcome to speak up and tell us your thoughts on it. Louise, you go first. Ladies first.
So when I think of comparison and jealousy and those type of things, it's I feel like it's something that we're conditioned from our families or even from past lives. You know, we have a lot of conditioning in us, and so I think that's a part of when we're doing this type of work, is those things arise, and those are the time that's the time to really sit with those feelings and allow them to be there. Don't dismiss them or ignore them. I think that's why it continues and it grows, because we tend to just go, oh, that's bad, I shouldn't be jealous, or I shouldn't compare myself, and we just push it down and push it down, but yet we're still in that same thought pattern. So it's really important, I think, to be aware of what we're feeling and to really go through the process of feeling it and just, you know, gradually letting it go.
That's a great way to look at it, that we need to actually observe the pattern, right?
Right.
That exists in us. Kelly, did you have any insights into living life through comparison?
Well, living life through comparison is a symptom of being out of alignment and separate from our heart, because that's where the monkey mind comes in. That's where our programming, our mental programming. And Louise, I completely agree with you in terms of past life, family conditioning, cultural conditioning, societal conditioning. And there's also the conditioning from being subject to our emotional defense mechanisms, our ego patterns, emotional defense mechanisms, the reptilian brain that's back in the amygdala in terms of the fight and flight responses, and how that triggers reinforcement of emotional energies that reinforce comparison and being out of alignment in terms of needing to mentally analyze the outside world to determine the best course of action, or how we get stuck comparing concepts of success and wealth and health and standards of life, standards of living. And it's one of the great educational resources of our time. Social media has really facilitated a profound level of multi-layered comparison with, where we have so many people that we can access their lives and view what they're doing. And, living life through comparison is living life in a very, very limited loop of reality. Because if we're constantly comparing ourselves with the outside world, we're never inside our body, we're never inside our heart, we're never aligned with our heart. And we can never be aligned with spirit then.
Perfectly said. It's like the alignment, what Eckhart says, aligned with our beingness.
Yep.
Presence power.
Yep.
We're not aligned with our presence power, and then now we are living life through comparison. Thank you. Travis, what kind of insights did you have about the self-sabotage? I think they're intertwined, the self-sabotage
Sure.
and living life through comparison. So jealousies, pettiness. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I guess what comes up for me in looking at these things is that I think, so to be jealous, I think it's implied that there is separation, and there is there's somebody else, right? So that suggests that you're experiencing life in kind of a more fragmented modality. And so there's you, and then there's somebody or something else. And then when you get into comparison, then you start to have this greater than, less than. And so it comes down to one's sense of self is at the core of it. And I think there's kind of a misapprehension or unconscious assumption that who I am is separate and from anyone or anything else, and that who I am is limited, and that who I am could be enhanced or be made better. And so I think it's very unconscious again, but one could go, oh, if I had what that person has, something external out there, then I would be satisfied. Then I would feel more fulfilled. I would feel more complete. I'd feel more whole in my sense of who I am. And so so I think there's these overlooked unconscious misapprehensions around who I am, the sense of self, and it all comes down to that, I think. So
that's a perfect way to look at it, Travis, that we are making the other in the comparison, right? In the jealousy. What came to my mind, and this is a very practical tip that I'm giving everyone. For the past 4 or 5 years, the more I've absorbed Eckhart's teachings, this level of comparison, right? Living life through comparison, like Travis was saying, don't see the other as the other. And especially if you don't have anything to give, right? If you don't have any wealth to give or belongings to give, charitable giving, the one thing we can give the other is actually celebrate their success. So if you're in a coworker type of environment, or if you're in a family type of environment, if your brother, sister, sister-in-law, extended family, somebody's doing well, then their success at what they're doing, celebrate it as though it was yours, that success came to you. So work-wise, I changed the work uh, modality of my working, where instead of saying, oh, I need to be the best, which I naturally am, you know, I have like the stereotypical East Indian, uh, the intelligence is there, so I tend to be good at what I do. But no longer is there any identification, like because of Eckhart's teachings, that identification is gone. So it's more like a helping. I do the work for them, but I let them succeed. Like you know, Tao Te Ching says something about the master does not you don't even know that the master did the work. I don't know the exact quote. um, the master allows the people to take the credit, right, for whatever the work is. So it's something like that. Like I've made my team members more successful. My energies were more. So this is what I would say, because the one thing that Luis has come to that realization, Kelly has come to that self-realization. Um, I talk about limiting beliefs a lot. These in the last couple of conscious manifestation conversations, Eckhart has talked about something called thought blocks. So we are not one strand of consciousness. We are multiple strands of consciousness. One strand can be this energy pattern of jealousy. Another strand can be self-sabotage, right? And that energy is living within us. So we are a bundle of you know, when we get into the depths of presence, we realize we are that bundle, that there can be a energy pattern of jealousy, and that's the past conditioning. And it's not words, right? With words we won't be able to say, hey, I have self-sabotage in me. We'll just act it out. We'll destroy something good. We are getting into a big house, and we'll say something to the seller, and that house deal will fall. The self-sabotage will start, right? So we won't even know that we're doing it, right? And that's um, the part that I want everyone that is able to see this video to understand, that self-sabotage is not something that your mind knows that it is going to go do the self-sabotage. Jealousy is not something that your mind is telling you, I'm going to be jealous in this moment. You just act it out, right? Because
Right.
that energy, that low frequency vibration of jealousy is within us, the low frequency vibration. And this is the karmic accumulation that we've been born with. We've been born with the jealousy. If somebody's saying, oh, I'm so pure, I'm so spiritual, that I have no jealousy, I have no comparison, no, we were born with it. The only thing that people like Louise and Kelly and Travis have done is they've raised their vibrational frequency to that extent that maybe those patterns don't exist anymore. Right, Louise?
Right.
They don't act out those patterns anymore. That's all that has happened.
Right. And it's all right. And it all begins with noticing and being aware.
Yep.
So what I would say, the way out of self-sabotage, and this is something that I could not find in Eckhart's answer that he actually responded this answer to you, Travis, that that self-sabotage is actually an energetic frequency, right? So for you to erase that, and you talked about in that conversation, you talked about generational, what we talk about on our Facebook lives, that there are some generational patterns that we have, right? Addiction. Louise has a daughter. She's talked a lot about a daughter who has addiction, drugs, addicted to drugs. So we talk about the addictive pattern, right? Some people are addicted to food. Some people are addicted to drugs, alcohol, cigarette, whatever it may be, right?
Thinking.
Thinking, very common. But what I'm saying is the way out of self-sabotage, the way out of jealousy, no longer feeling jealousy anymore ever in your life, is actually, as Travis was saying, not to see the other as other, right? Louise is me and I am Louise. So Louise is making Louise successful, or making Kelly. I've told Kelly so many times, I want to see hundreds of Qigong studios to open up under his name, right? So I don't see the other. I want the success of the other. I want the success of Travis. I want your music and your spiritual talks to become like Bloom, right? So you don't see the other anymore. Does that make sense? I want Luis to write more books and actually be more successful, right? Eileen to be, that's the, you don't see the other, and that is the most amazing part, that no longer do you see the other, and practice it by doing that. Make another purposefully, initially it'll be purposeful, right? Where in this Western environment, it is a lot about comparison.
Yep.
Right? You're constantly comparing. I need to be the best. Kind of. There are a few questions on the chat. I'm going to read the first one. Thank you, Eileen, for these. Sujata says, what I noticed in myself is observation of the arising of this thought in me always showed me where I still had some desire left. Noticing this itself helps in dissolving it. So the desire is when we were feeling jealousy, that there was some desire left. So so she's giving a solution actually. Thank you, Sujata. That's beautiful. Deborah says, I've learned enough self-awareness to recognize the self-sabotage, but can't always stop it. Anybody want to take it up? Travis, you want to go first?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I can speak, from my experience in life, and so hopefully that might be useful to you, to any of us. So, but for myself, there's I mean, there's been a ton of I guess what would look like or be called failure in my life, right? On the surface, on the outside. But I'm so grateful for all of that ends up being not just useful by my most honest reckoning, but actually quite necessary. So I think there's something about, for me, valuing every experience that I go through and knowing that it is just the teaching that I need at that time. And so I think kind of ceasing to see, failure as failure, but just starting where you are right now, and maybe you have some sort of goal in the world, a worldly ambition or something you'd like to achieve or do or accomplish. For me, I just kind of get right back on the horse. I just keep at it, because every time I look inside of myself, I still want the same things. It still makes me happy to go, no, these are the things that I love. These are the things that I'm willing to pour my time and my energy and my attention and my love into. And so maybe those things change. They change in time. But for me, I've had a few things that have just been pretty solid throughout the course of my life. But those things haven't come to their fullest fruition yet. And maybe they won't. Maybe they're just kind of a carrot out in front of me that keeps me going along on my way. I don't mind, because it's like Eckhart said in his response to my question. It's like I'm on a pilgrimage, and I'm to be transformed as I go through this pilgrimage, enjoying every step of the way, knowing that it's not about reaching a destination. It's really about enjoying in a playful sort of way, in that kind of spirit of that Sat Chit Ananda, just the joy of just being, playful way. You just enjoy the journey, and not think that there's going to be a better moment than this one. That's what helps me. So.
Thank you, Travis. Louise, do you have any input on recognize the self-sabotage but can't always stop it? Is a question from Deborah.
I think, yeah, when I find myself, again, it's a matter of not fighting yourself. And it's, that's brings you to acceptance and surrender. And, sometimes that's just how it is. And I think we tend to judge ourselves or beat ourselves up and say, oh my gosh, I can't stop this, or, I keep doing the same thing. But it's a process. As we grow in our, in expanding our space and our stillness, I've noticed that the more and more I grow, the more and more those things just disappear. But you struggle at first because we are just so conditioned to be in a different way. And I think sometimes because that's so part of our nature, we kind of like it, even though it's we don't really want it, but it's comfortable. It's like this, I'm used to this. So I've just learned to just not fight myself with that, and just go, okay, this is where I'm at today, and I'm not fighting that. I'm not resisting it. I'm just going to accept where I'm at right now. And I think a lot of times I'll do that even with meditating. Sometimes my mind, and before, when I first started this practice, I'd be like, oh my gosh, that didn't even work. I can't believe it. I sat there for 15 minutes and my mind was going on. And now it's just like, okay, so my mind's busy, let it be.
Perfect. Surrender to what is, right? Kelly?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Let's turn this down a little bit. Recognizing self-sabotage. Any aspect of developing awareness, developing alignment with spirit and heart. My experience has been that it's always a process. It's always a constant refinement. It's just like learning to swim or learning to ride a bike or tie your shoes. It's one of those things where you have to practice. You have to constantly put yourself in that space of accepting, okay, I didn't do the knot on my shoes the way I wanted. I'll have to undo it, do it again. And every single day, it's sort of like, especially with tying the shoes or even just putting your shoes on, it's never the same way twice. Even all my years practicing martial arts, it's like, one of the things that we talk about in martial arts is, everything has to be perfect or blah, blah, blah. And that's like the mental projection of this false concept of perfection, because there is no perfection other than the present moment. And one of the things that I've experienced and learned many times over and the hard way through trial and error is that I will step in and out of alignment. I will step in and out of awareness of my patterns, of the shadow habits that I have, the self-sabotage being one of them. One side of my family is Mennonite, the other side of my family is Roman Catholic. So there's a lot of familial, cultural, religious, embedded, subtle programming that goes along with being a part of my family that I have spent an awful lot of time looking at and undoing and unraveling, and having to learn about how the subtleties of the belief structures that I've carried have sabotaged my perception of things, or sabotaged my ability to be open to another person's perspective. And, some of the best moments in my life have been where I've been totally busted and been completely wrong about something, and went, wow, and feeling how my mind caught me in a loop to keep me from seeing someone else's perception, someone else's point of view, and sabotage my ability to hear them. And it's also coming from a political family, the ferocity of opinion and the rigidness of being open to other information, and witnessing the internal dialogue of constantly sabotaging even just basic, simple, open conversation. To be able to have a conversation, just instantly already having a prejudgment of a situation, of someone else's ideology, and basically watching family members sabotage the ability to have even just a simple conversation with someone else who has a different perspective. And in terms of having goals in the world and doing things in the world, being a teacher, wanting to school, wanting to have students, having to deal with patterns of self-sabotage, and working through them, and not being successful in sort of a traditional way of money wealth, financial wealth, but accepting that some of the things that the universe has provided me to learn, how those sort of convergences of experience have given me opportunities to learn how to accept and allow my growth into alignment, and from a place of heart, and not comparison, and not sabotage myself to always be comparing myself with other people, but to accept my own process and to not sabotage that, has probably been the greatest learning experience and the greatest gift.
Thank you, Kelly. What I would say is to stop self-sabotage, as Travis and Louise pointed out, and Kelly pointed out, the only way to erase that pattern is to raise your vibrational frequency. And raising your vibrational frequency implies you're in a high degree of presence. So even if we destroyed something, we were creating a business or whatever we were doing, and now we destroyed it, right? The only thing that life situation is teaching us is we were not in enough presence power. I hope everyone understands that.
Yep.
That once we self-sabotage, then that means, so when Eckhart says life gives you the experiences that are most needed for the evolution of your consciousness, that is that bring your, what I say is this is your inner being. You have to be aligned with your inner being for consciousness every minute, every second, every chronological second. You have to be aligned with your inner beingness. That's what he is saying is conscious manifestation. And if you're if Travis, you're not getting success in a certain thing, or Kelly, you said you were doing the what policy writing or whatever, right?
Yeah, I was a policy
They
analyst.
policy analyst, thank you for correcting me. So The universe will not respond with abundance where it doesn't want you to succeed.
Very true.
Does that make sense, Travis? Like if the sabotage will occur in that area, because if it gave you success in that area, then you wouldn't leave, you would leave your actual purpose.
Right, right. I hear what you're saying. Yeah. Mhm.
Right? So if you were to become a greatest chef, or Kelly were to become the greatest policy analyst, how would he do the Qigong teaching and meet us here? Or Louise would have done her whatever she was doing and not be an author and not be a writer. She did School of Awakening with Eckhart, and then you turned it into writing, right? Out of that spiritual experience.
Yes.
So
Yes.
so what I would say is, don't take your self-sabotage as that's a failure. Don't call it a failure. Look at it as what Eckhart says, it's an unfoldment. It's moving you into a direction that you need to move to. Listen, listen, and alignment. I say bring your vibrational frequency higher and higher and higher. See where the noise is, right, in your life. See where are these patterns, who around you has these patterns, and you need to move away from them. Right, it may be that now you cannot be with certain family members, certain friends. You can go sit at the bar and have drinking sessions at the bar, right? Or whatever is the behavior, like you have to see your own day to behavior, right? And
Mhm.
say, hey, what is bringing down my vibrational frequency? What is draining my energy? Who around me is draining my energy, right? And then pull away. TV, news, reading news is one of the things. Eckhart gives that in the Conscious Manifestation course, and his recent videos have been that, right? Pull yourself away from news. Don't listen to the news because it's all full of violence and depressed news, right? Pain bodies creating more information for pain bodies, as he says, right? So let's look at some more questions. I hope we answered Deborah's question. Lakshmi says, my question is, who created the negative energy? And then following that, for the first human, how did the past lives karma work? I would say like the first human would not have any karma, right? They would be, there is a, so each religious or religion has this certain event, the religion that was man's downfall, right? Like the Adam and Eve story, where Adam and Eve bit off the apple, the fruit from the tree, whatever it was, and they knew good and evil, right? So there was a downfall where uh, man sunk into his wanton behaviors. In India, in the Mahabharata, right? There's this scene where a um, uh, it's a long story, but they're trying to. I think they're trying to rape this woman. Take her. We wear sari, right, which is like 6 meters long. So they try to pull it, and she has grace, and that cloth keeps wrapping around her, infinitely wrapping around her. Is the story, Draupadi Lakshmi. So that indicates the downfall where man gave in into his desires, right? So there is a certain point where it happened that we move from the golden age to suddenly having these past conditioned behaviors. And each religion indicates that period, right? I don't know what exact time, chronological time, but each one indicates through its story or mythology that that was the downfall of man. Do you all want to speak to it, Louise and Kelly and Travis?
I really don't have anything to say about that.
Kelly, you want to say something about my question is, who created the negative energy?
Okay, well, this is a whole big can of worms, and Travis, I just want to say that I really appreciate the Egyptian hieroglyphs behind you. I'm a big fan of Egyptian culture and ancient cultures. Bit of a history nut, and on that note, I'd just like to say that I've studied the world religion in pretty deep detail. You even took it in university. The original human. So if we're actually going to go back that far, to that whole paradigm, that whole concept of karma, then you have to understand that the illusion that we're born into is the paradigm of karma. That the whole concept of illusion that this planet is on, that consciousness exists in a limited three-dimensional world in terms of lower, denser vibration, is the karma. So it's not necessarily like who created the karma, it's the fact that the lower energy vibration of 3D reality, if we are locked in to our limited five senses and our limited 3D reality and that lower vibration, that is the karma. That is the energy that we have to deal with and the lesson that we have to learn of how we are way more than that limited 3D reality. So it's not about who created karma for the original human. It's a simple fact, as Poonam, you've been talking about, and Eckhart talks about, and people talk about in terms of raising their vibration. Either understanding or not understanding that we are more, that we can be a higher vibration, that we can be in alignment with our hearts and spirit and the divine, is the karma. It's got nothing to do. So if we had a first human and they had no family or no sisters, no society or anything like that, it's the simple fact that they are in a limited three-dimensional five senses body and illusion that creates the karma.
Perfectly said, Kelly.
Thank you.
Travis, did you have any input?
Yeah, I'll take a stab at it.
Thank you.
I want to say I can't remember the questioner's name, but I appreciate the questions. I always appreciate a challenge. So, and you know, in reflecting on these things, for me right now, it's I can't help but to it seems as though there's an implication of time, right? Of sequence, right? This happened, and I think with karma, I don't, if there is no time, it's hard to understand karma. It almost needs time to be, I think, because there's a sequence. This happened that begets this sequentially, that leads into this sequentially, and so there's a you know that thread of time, and again with the negative energy. So I guess it's I mean, what comes up for me is, well, for one, I get curious. I want to ask. I very honestly wonder, oh, why are we asking these questions? What is it that we're trying to get to? And that those are the kinds of questions that come up for me hearing a question like this. And so for me, where my attention goes is in this present moment, I want to offer my attention to that which is most vital, and use this present moment as an opportunity to continue to move deeper into that space. And when I do, the more that I do that, the more I find myself in that timeless dimension of life, as Eckhart might put it. Um, and I kind of go, what negative energy? It's almost like if you were the light and you're going around looking for the darkness, and you go over here, well, it's not there. And you look over here, well, I don't see it over there, because everywhere you go, you're bringing in the light. And that's what, so negativity, it's the absence, right? So that's what I see. I just see this lightness of spirit that is timeless. And to me, I know it might not make much sense, and this, I feel like I'm kind of meandering in what I'm saying, but I feel like that's my response, is that here and now, there is our essence, this light that dispels karma, and it dispels what we would call negative energy. And it's I think that negative energy, if you want to call it that, is powerless in the face of that light. I don't really know what to call it, you know, our essence. And so for me, that's what comes up, is that it's important to find our way into our deepest selves, into that which is most vital, and to just continue to move deeper, because that's what then it almost feels like those questions, almost in a way, they become irrelevant or something. I don't know. I hope that's helpful.
It's a beautiful way of looking at it, Travis, that if we are in that degree or depth of presence, then we don't even see the negative energy, right? But what I would say is, who created, there's not like a who or what. The way Eckhart explains it is, when the ego was created, or this mind identification was created, the suffering is the safety valve, right? If we didn't have the negative frequencies of depression, then if you wouldn't suffer, we wouldn't get out of the identified mind, right? So the suffering, it's like the polarity. If the ego was created, then the suffering was created also. So the negativity, and there's just one creator, the one consciousness, right? When the consciousness gave the human the ability to have a thinking mind, or that much power to think on its own and create on its own, right? So now we have become conscious co-creators. No longer, what Eckhart says during the conscious manifestation course is, the one consciousness created billions of forms, right? You look at these shows called Life or Planet Earth, and you'll see, like, in the sea, there's so many creatures, they're beautiful fishes. I mean, from that single-celled organism that started with the Big Bang, whenever the Big Bang happened and this planet was created, out of the single-celled organism, look at how many billions of forms have been created, right? So now it is that the human has been given that. Louise has created a book, right? How much difference is she making in everyone that reads, the grandparents that are reading that book for their grandchildren and taking care of it, right? You're going to create music, right, Travis? So how many people are going to get elevated with that music? That they may come to their presence power just by hearing a certain note. They may come into their presence, right? So now that creativity, if it has given us that creative energy, then it also has given us safety valve, that Travis not get into his head and his head grow that big, that, hey, I'm such a famous person, now I'm not even going to show up for a Facebook Live, right? Something like that. So the safety valve, the negative energy is not somebody saying, oh, I need to create negative energy. The way Eckhart explains it is, when the ego was created, the suffering was created as well as a safety valve. I don't know if they were different words the way y'all understand it, but hopefully we helped Lakshmi with that question. Is it Ghislaine, Eileen? Ghislaine asks, wants to know accepting self-sabotage. So Louise was
Yeah,
asking about surrender, right? So Ghislaine is saying, is it Ghislaine or Ghislaine? I don't know how to pronounce it.
yeah, I'm not sure.
Ghislaine?
Ghislaine.
Ghislaine, thank you, Kelly. Ghislaine asks, accepting self-sabotage. Louise, I'll start with you. Since you were talking about accepting the self-sabotage.
So yes, I guess what she's meaning is like, should we like accept it? Is that what she's meaning, do you think? Oh, okay.
That's how I took it.
Okay. Yeah, I think yes. I mean, anything that we feel is something that we is like nudging us to take a look at. And like I said, the more if we try to push it away, if we try to ignore it, if we just don't, if we, then it just always comes back to bite us. So I have found that no matter how negative it is or bad it seems, like self-sabotaging, it's coming up for a reason for us to take a look at that, to deal with that. And I feel the only way that has really helped me to deal with things is accepting it, because by accepting it, it disappears eventually. It might not right away. And I think that's something that you grow into as you grow in your practice. But the more and more, like I would, like for a long time, I had a really bad like neck pain. And so I would always just try to ignore it, or I just take a Tylenol or whatever and try to but it was always there until I just sat with it. And when I just sat with it and just allowed myself to feel the pain, and as I was feeling, just allowing it, the more and more I just put my attention to it, the more and more it just started to fade away. And so that is why I say that, some issues are bigger than others. And so it might continually keep coming back at you, but each time it's less and less. And then it doesn't come back to bite you and you've worked through it.
Thank you, Louise. Kelly?
Sure. Very well said, Louise. I completely agree with you in terms of accepting. Going through my own patterns of self-sabotage over the years, accepting what I was feeling about myself, accepting that there was this program of self-sabotage on several fronts, and letting myself feel that space of how my monkey mind wanted to hijack or hook me into it and convince me that that was normal. That was just normal. That there wasn't any other way was a big learning experience for me. And accepting that I actually had this belief system that allowed my internal dialogue to convince me that this self-sabotage pattern was just the way the world was and that I couldn't change it was a big thing. So letting myself feel this space, letting myself feel the program of where this self-sabotage cycle sat and what it felt like in my breath, what it felt like in my body, what it felt like in my head when I thought about it, when I let myself feel it, accepting that that was a real thing, accepting that the feelings that I had and the resistance to even look at the self-sabotage pattern as something that I had to deal with was a big thing. So for me, it always goes back to letting myself feel the space, letting myself get angry, letting myself cry, letting myself process whatever it is that I need to feel when I come up against that kind of program. So, and it's a process. It's a constantly evolving process. I worked through a lot of things, but again, it always comes back to having the courage to look at a space of resistance like a sabotage program and to let yourself feel it over and over and over again. And this is sort of where the whole practice and the discipline of self-awareness, from my experience, really comes into play. Where as soon as you are observing the program, as soon as you are watching and letting yourself feel and observing that space, that energy, that dense energy, what it feels like, as soon as you are letting yourself observe it, you begin to change it. And the more you observe it, the more it changes. And the less space you actually give it, the more you observe it. And over time, you build up momentum where you flip it completely in a 180. You build up enough momentum of observation of that program where it no longer has any traction and it just burns out.
Perfect. Great practical tip
Thanks.
towards the end. Thank you. Travis, what comes up for you for accepting self-sabotage? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Louise, and thanks, Kelly. I definitely really just to kind of echo what you were saying, Kelly. Like I noticed that for myself, where it just, if I'm able to be alert enough to watch, because thoughts can come in so subtly.
Oh yeah.
And but they're just like these little poison darts or something, you know. And so and I think also, you know, to be aware of one's conditioning. Like for me, you know, I don't come from a very successful in the worldly sense family. You know, we're not it's not a bunch of overachievers. It's not a bunch of people who have accomplished or attained to a lot of things that, you know, would offer a lot of social merit. So I've grown up, I think, in a little den of those kinds of voices of, oh, I can't do this, or that's not for me. And so, you know, so just to be aware, we all have such unique upbringings and conditionings in the world. So just to kind of take a look back behind you and where you're coming from, and be aware of what all of that is. And that's useful for me, and just watching those thoughts. Because if, like, say, you know, today I've been working on recording and working on a song all day, and I'll notice these kind of self-doubt thoughts come in. And as soon as I am able to just be aware and go, oh, there's that's what that is, it instantly has no power over me. And so that's part of it. And I guess, accepting self-sabotage, I mean, it's funny, it's, you know, as we talk about it so much, part of me is like I don't know. Really sure. I haven't really sat with it at length to really try to figure out for myself everything that it kind of suggests. But because I do feel like there's a natural process, you know, and if I would have achieved the things that I would like to achieve earlier in my life, I haven't been ready for those things yet. I've been doing the work, you know, and kind of there's been a refining process going on. And so I think just to kind of flip it a little bit and go, you know, maybe sometimes self-sabotage isn't really self-sabotage. You know, it's that we're going through a process, and if we persevere and remain vigilant, and it continues to matter to us enough to give it everything we got, then we will kind of eventually, like as you were saying, Kelly, kind of you know, shift that, kind of turn the tide, and you know, and things can start to flow a little more. So. Yeah.
Awesome answers. Thank you, Travis.
Mm-hmm.
What I would say is the mind will also come in and say, don't accept, right?
Yep.
That's another resistance pattern in the mind. How can we accept, like Travis was saying, like the mind will say, oh, well, you're such a loser. How can you accept this kind of a failure, right? Or I can't believe, like Eckhart says about himself that he was 48, 47, 48 before he had his success with the power of now. So he said in those 40s, people used to say that you're still cycling around London, right? You're on a bicycle in London cycling around. So those thoughts stayed with Eckhart as well, right? So what I would say is, like Louise says, like Travis and Kelly say, thank you so much for the responses, that acceptance is the first key so that you surrender, right? You're supple. What I would say is, again, back to the vibrational frequency, go do your meditation at that time. Go sit in meditation, sit with it in meditation and let it dissolve, because that's how the other thing to this self-sabotage is, how much of a pain body do you have? Because the pain body will go in and ram and completely like destroy. Like if you think you were just going to push that car, you know, somebody was saying about the San Francisco hills. There
Yep.
are hills in San Francisco. You just push a little bit. No, you're just going to like push it so hard that it'll go right to the bottom of the cliff, right? That's what you're going to do to your car if you have a pain body that is with. So first, dissolve your pain body, work, do your presence practice. um, Eckhart gives this portals of presence, inhabit your body. It is so necessary to inhabit your body so that you can feel that urge within your body already. Like Kelly was saying, you know, to turn it over, you
Yep.
need to feel that urge of that sabotage. Hey, I'm getting that negative feeling that I want to hit that person, right now. I'm
Yeah.
getting that urge. And then you go, no, I'm stepping away. I'm getting out of this house. I'm getting in my car and driving around the city. I'm not going to say a word to this person. Like Kelly was saying, challenging relatives, right? That are opinionated. You just get up and leave. It's better accept the situation, change the situation, or leave. Leave is a choice. Eckhart is not saying sit there and listen and destroy your relationship with this relative or whatever it may be, right?
Yep.
So, perfect. Inhabit your body, let go of your pain body, and some of the self sabotage will, and like Kelly says, turn it over so that no longer are you going into the self sabotage. Maria says, any feedback on living with someone who is very unconscious, who derides anything like the teachings of power of now? This person is a total opposite of me. Travis, you go first.
Okay.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Well, I think that you know, I'll share a little bit about my current life situation. You know, I've been a caregiver all my life, which has served me tremendously. And I have a dear friend who is quadriplegic, who I've grown up around, and I'm very karmically connected to him. He's how my parents met. He's been connected to every good thing in my life in a funny sort of way. He and right now I found myself back in the Bay Area, and I'm working for him, which I hadn't done for years. So toxic, and such a you know, a negative environment. and I guess the reason I'm sharing this is because I'm amazed at how well I'm able to do in such a crazy kind of pain body, environment. It's just like a den of pain or something there. It's crazy. But when the shelter in place went into effect and I was living there, it went over my threshold, and it was more than I could take on without having it get under my skin and kind of take me over, and then I was a part of it and feeding into it. So it's just really important to know and not be too proud or anything, but just understand where your limits are right now with what you can take on, right? Because this is a shared living situation. Is that right? Yeah. And so, I mean, so that's your very core, and so it might be one of those things that if it's too much, then hopefully there's a way that you can find to leave. That's what I did. I ended up in this beautiful house that it's a miracle. I'm paying next to nothing to live here. It was here the whole time, and it's absolute miracle. And so I think, but it wasn't until I recognized within myself that I needed to do something, I needed to make a change, that opportunity opened up. So I hope that's helpful, just recognizing one's limits with where you're at, because the deeper you are in the practice, I really do believe that we can ultimately come to a state where we can be in any environment and not have it negatively impact us. But that's rare, I think. And so, yeah.
So,
mhm.
so you're saying one of the pointers that this person may be giving her is she needs to leave that situation, that living situation, because that's what it did for you. Right?
Yeah. To recognize that if it is past your limit of what you feel like you can find a way to accept or change, and and you can't really change other people, not. So then you might want to
Leave.
think about leaving. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Louise?
It goes back to, yes, accepting the situation, changing it or leaving it. And my husband, I have a situation where my husband is not, doesn't practice any kind of spirituality. And so you can't, like you were saying, Travis, you can't change another person, but you can change yourself and how you react to them, and how you see the situation, or I've changed my perspective a lot on things, because it's just the things that I've learned, I guess, along the way, like seeing myself in him instead of like getting frustrated sometimes with some of the things he does. I'll like see myself in there, and then I might even explain that to him, like how I was getting frustrated and how I've done that myself, or that's something that I would like to work on. And so in a lot of ways it has strengthened our relationship, even though he's still on the other side kind of. But it's like I've just learned to change myself in this situation, and it's worked. I think that sometimes it might not work, where even if you change your perspective and change how you view things, and that other person might not be giving you them back, like what Travis was saying, where you just can't do it anymore. But I think that there's enough there that he seems to, get it. And I think that on my end, I've just learned to accept him for who he is, see myself in him at times, and understand that, we're all at a different level of consciousness. And so I feel like it is something that can work if you're willing to change your perspective and give that other person a break, and be forgiving and seeing things in a loving way instead of like they're trying to get at me, or so there's ways of working on it if you want to, but I also think that we do have boundaries, and if it goes beyond that boundary, we have to leave.
You almost have a similar,
Ooh.
somebody's volume is pretty loud. You almost have a similar answer to Travis. Leave the situation. If not, don't try to change them, right?
Yeah, either change yourself or your perspective, or your views and how you view that person, or yes, then if it's beyond your boundaries, then you have to leave. Everyone has
No other
boundaries,
choice.
right?
Thank you. Perfect. Kelly?
Sure. Okay. So in my world perspective on life now, everything is a gift of learning. Everything is a gift of having an opportunity to see deeper into our own personal practice and to see where we really are. That is a hard won space of perspective from my experience. In response to Maria's question, any type of derision from someone outside of you is an emotional self-defense mechanism. So whether or not you want to see it as a personal attack or as the actual programmed self-defense mechanism, it is entirely up to you. Not everyone is ready to look inside and look at themselves. This is just the way people are. And I completely agree with Travis and Louise that there has to be some reflection on what your personal limit is. Whether or not, if this is a living situation where you are married to the person. I've been married. I left that marriage. I got divorced because my partner was not capable of having capacity to be emotionally present. And I mean, I have no idea how she is now. I always wish her the best, because the gift that I had of the conflict of spaces and perceptions that we had really gave me an opportunity to choose for myself what I really wanted, and to see how strong I was in my faith, in my own personal practice. I mean, everyone's situation is their own. Everyone's situation is different. And yeah, it's very normal to have derision thrown at you if you have a different perspective than what someone else believes. That's the way humans are programmed. And it's important to look at that. And if there is no space for communication in the relationship, what Louise was saying, like, if you change yourself, you really don't always have to say anything or create any conflict or challenge the other person, because if you actually change yourself, the other person will feel the shift in energy in you. And it's from raising your own vibration by coming into alignment that will actually give you the answer that you need.
Take some of Kelly's Qigong classes. And maybe the other person gets interested in them too, right?
Exactly. Who knows? Who knows?
So I agree with you, Kelly. Thank you for that tip. That the fact that you feel derision, right, is a pointer to that we are still not there. We are still not aligned with our inner beingness, because like what Eckhart says, right? What is that saying? I kind of forget it. He says that you cannot. It's something from A Course in Miracles, where he says that if you were that aligned, you can never feel that upset.
Yep.
Right. the fact that you feel upset, and this is what Kelly is saying, that the fact that you feel the derision, then that means your alignment is not here. You're still somewhere. Maybe you've raised your vibrational frequency, but you're still not completely aligned, because in completely aligned, you would offer the other spaciousness. You would not see the other. The other is no longer the other. And one of the things that I know of myself, when I found Eckhart in 2010, I wanted to speak to everyone about Eckhart. I wanted to talk to maybe the service advisor about Eckhart. I wanted to talk to the cashier about Eckhart. So lose that um, urge to talk about Eckhart, because initially it's like a fandom kind of feeling, right? We are so excited about discovering this presence power that we want to talk about it with anybody and everybody. And as Kelly says and Luis says, not everybody is ready,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
They're not accepting of this. They don't even think that there is something called the present moment. So nobody, I mean, so they will be offered their own suffering. Their greatest spiritual teacher, as Eckhart says, is their suffering. And at one point, in maybe 5 years from now, maybe you move away from them, and then 8 years from now, they'll say, "Hey, you were talking about power of now at 5 years back. Can you talk about it now?" And they'll come back to you. But right now, for this moment, leave them be. Offer them spaciousness, deepen your presence power, is what I would say. Work on your presence, as Louise says. The only person we can change in this world is one, ourselves. That's the only, and we started this off, this conversation in the beginning with the only thing we need to monitor, the greatest thing that we need to have vigilance about is our vibrational energy. Am I aligned with inner beingness? Am I dropping? Right? That's when the self sabotage starts. Once you drop from that high frequency, and those are the delta, the frequencies that we cannot see, the delta states, the theta states, right? When you're at that high frequency vibration, then nothing will touch you. It'll just pass through you. You'll see them, you'll offer them spaciousness, then go, if they give you a headache because they were saying no and always resisting you, then go do your meditation. Close your door and say, "Hey, give me an hour or two. I'm going to go sit in meditation," or go outside, sit in nature for an hour or two and say, "Hey, I need to be alone. Please, I love you very much, whoever you are, my roommate, whoever you are, but please give me an hour. I'm not the same person anymore. I need my hour of quiet time," right? I would say that. If they get offended, they get offended.
Can I just
Absolutely.
add something?
Go ahead, Eileen. Thank you.
I just wanted to add that something that you taught me, Poonam, that not make her, but she would be her greatest spiritual teacher right now, because that relationship that they have and the struggle that they have, that suffering and resistance that comes up because of it, it's almost as if the person she's living with is her greatest spiritual teacher. So take it as like a learning,
Yep.
not as a
They're teaching
negative
you
thing.
that you're not at the highest vibration, because you wouldn't get offended.
Yeah,
If you were
exactly.
at the highest vibration, you don't get offended. So I do that with even the Facebook group. I look at the answers, the responses. I may not respond. If I'm not in presence, then I'll go do my meditation, come back in an hour or two. Sometimes some of the questions are so filled with distress, right? The pain body has come out,
Yeah.
but you cannot respond with, you need to be fully in presence. Just don't randomly respond to questions, because that person is looking for healing and you can't just respond, right? So go do your meditation, come back and be with this person. Go do your meditation, then be with something that is challenging, right, Travis?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. It's it's always good to be able to look inside of oneself and go, okay, well, where am I right now, and then be able to, I know for me, my sitting practice, or I have a whole mess of things that I can do that are going to help me get back in my zone if something's really pulling me out. Yeah.
Thank you.
And Poonam, Maria does the group meditation with us. So I'm thinking that maybe we could talk about this on
Yes.
Friday.
Mhm.
Because I feel like she's not completely getting her point across, because she doesn't really get offended and doesn't get upset. But she's just, I think, trying to find a way to live with this person. It's only temporary, but live with them and find a way to set boundaries while
We
being
can
there.
discuss it. Yeah, we can discuss it during group meditation. I want to go to the next question. April, let me check the time. Yeah, 8:15. I hope you'll have some more time,
I've got
Kelly,
time.
and
Yes.
you good?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Thank you. I've been listening to Eckhart for years. I'm a professional, April last. I'm a professional counselor, healer, psychic medium myself. But here's the but. I can't seem to heal myself from my 24 years of sinus infection and 27 years of IBS, and can't manifest becoming a professional speaker like Wayne Dyer, but heal everyone around me all day. I feel like I get sucked down to the third 3D level, then wake up and I'm on the now. Then life happens and back to third dimension. Then even with 23 different degrees, I will say to myself, I'm not as good as Eckhart. Who wants to take it up, or you want me to speak to it?
I have a feeling I know what you're going to say. But you can say it.
No, I'd like to hear what you say, but I can definitely speak to that
Okay,
question.
go ahead, Kelly. You start then. Thank
Okay.
you.
Little known fact about me, I used to be a psychic medium healer too. And I stopped it all when I realized how out of my body I was. So if someone has had 24 years of sinus infection, it means you're overusing your third eye and you're cut off from the rest of your body. If you have IBS for 27 years, that is your sacral center. That is your center of creation and your divine sexual connection to the universe, and you are cut off from it if you have IBS for that long. From my own personal experience, I used to have sinusitis constantly, impacted sinuses constantly when I was a psychic medium healer, when I used to channel all the time. It's because what happens is you overuse your third eye and you pull yourself out of your body and out of connection and out of alignment with your heart. I used to teach Reiki. I took pranic healing, spiritual healing, hands, like all that stuff. This is one of the reasons why I teach Qigong and why I teach the stuff that I do the way that I do now. Understanding what you are feeling in your body is essential to being able to hold space and to heal yourself and not be a caretaker for other people's energy. This is one of the big problems with energy healers that I have experienced across the board, where they do wonders for everybody else, but they cannot heal themselves because they are not connected to their body. They cannot feel what they are doing to themselves energetically, and they're not able to be physically present in their body. So doesn't matter how much a person has learned of mental information, if they do not have a practice, if they do not give themselves enough space, if someone is healing everyone every day, day in, day out, they are not giving themselves any energy. They are not giving themselves any time to recover or to have space for themselves and to be present outside of everyone else's energy. This is a big, big stumbling block for a lot of healers that I know, where they want to help people. I mean, one of my prime caretaking issues, wanting to help and support everyone and never giving myself any time. This is a big learning lesson for me. So getting connected to the body, giving your body time to recover, giving yourself time to be physically present in the body. And I know there, like, you know, there are practices where people will practice and they'll say that, oh, well, I do this, I'm really grounded, and blah, 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 blah. It's like, yeah, but if you had this long-term sinus problem and long-term IBS, those energy centers are that out of balance, that out of whack for such a long time, there's a real problem, and you don't want to look at it, and you need to look at it. You need to actually be present with what you're doing. You need to actually go inside and feel what you're doing to your body. This is a huge stumbling block for a lot of people in the healing community that I used to know, that I used to talk to all the time. And pretty much when I discovered this and tried sharing this with people, I basically lost all my friends because they didn't want to hear it. And I'm fine with that, because my own personal experience in terms of understanding how to be grounded and how to be physically present and how to be aligned with my heart, I am a completely different person. And being present is not easy. Looking at our stuff and what we've done to ourselves, the choices that we have chosen that are impacting ourselves and our ability to be present are really hard to look at. So just from personal experience, the problem with the sinuses and IBS, I have one of my best friends has IBS. And she is one of these people who pushes herself and pushes herself and pushes herself and pushes herself and never stops. And that's the whole point, is a person needs to stop and listen.
Join some of your Qigong classes, Kelly, and get into the body. Qigong is a very, very deep practice to get into the body. So if anybody says, I cannot, everybody talks about this inhabit body, inhabit body, inhabit body. Just take a few classes from Kelly, or Kiming, Eckhart's partner, does Qigong. So do yoga Qigong and you will start to inhabit your body and feel what it means to actually feel your body from the inside. Because there's like, there are days that I can feel during meditation, it almost is like the weight of the inner body is grounding me.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
That's how, if you have a good meditation, then it's going to ground you, and
Yes.
that'll hold you in. That's your high vibrational state. Travis, you want, thank you, Kelly. Beautiful. Travis, you want to talk about this, and then Luis.
So I'm trying to look at see if I can see could I hear the question again?
She had 24
I see it.
years of sinus infection and 27 years of IBS, and can manifest becoming a professional speaker like Wayne Dyer, but heal everyone around me all day. I feel like I get sick down to the 3D level. I mean, it's long, but the main
Right.
thing
No,
is sinus
I
infection.
just pulled it up here. I'm looking at it.
Okay.
And you know, I think there are a lot of you know, different things that folks could say and different perspectives we could take to share to try to help. You know, it's what comes up for me, you know, and I hope that this is useful, is and this is just part of the whole picture of how to take on these issues, or any issues really that anyone's facing, is to I feel like it's very normal for most of us most of the time to take ourselves very seriously. We you know, being a person that is a limited phenomenon that was, you know, born and will be here for a while in this strange, mysterious existence, and then eventually not be here in this way. There's that quality of playfulness that I think comes from being in touch with that aspect of ourselves that isn't fleeting, that doesn't belong to time, that doesn't come and go. It doesn't change, and it's the part of us that can't be harmed. And so for me, as I've dealt with different physical problems throughout the course of my life, or different goals, things like that, part of it is just to, if I can be in that place that feels light and free and playful and content, for that, and it's not derived from any life situation or circumstance. It's just a natural disposition. I think that if we can find that, then we're in a better place to heal physically. When we can play in this Leela of life, when we can sing and dance and laugh and play, and bring some joy and light and ease into the equation. So and in saying that, I hope I don't sound, that these things can be very difficult, and I totally want to validate, the challenge and of difficulties of life. I don't think that that they're mutually exclusive. I think that you can still have that childlike, playful spirit and face intense physical pain, things not going the way that you had imagined or wanted them to, but just to treat it kind of easy, kind of fun, like a game. It's okay if things don't work out the way you want. That's so huge to me, to have that detachment. I think is a part of the equation there, So.
Don't take your thoughts too seriously.
Yeah, or your body, or any of it.
Or your life.
It's or your life. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Travis. Louise?
What came up for me was, well, two things. One is comparing again, that like I want to be a public speaker like Wayne Dyer. I want this or I want that. And so then that brings me back to, accepting what is and where you're at now. And with that, I have found that then those things come to you rather than you chasing them. And so I would suggest that, still practicing being, your presence and your meditation or whatever your practice is, but letting go of the outcome and just accepting yourself for who you are and where you're at, and trusting that by doing that, that whatever you need will come to you when the time is right.
Perfectly said, Louise.
Thank you.
Thank you. To wait for the perfect opportunity or wait for the perfect time that this will happen, right?
Right.
So I know what Eileen was expecting me to respond with. If you say, I am not like Dr. Wayne Dyer, I am not like Eckhart, guess what you're repeating? I'm not like Wayne Dyer. I'm not like Wayne Dyer. I'm not like Wayne Dyer. I'm not like. So you have an undigested thought. Why is the IBS? You are not accepting, like Louise says, not accepting this present moment. You're saying you want to be in a future moment. There's a discrepancy between reality and your expectation that you want to be like Wayne Dyer. And the more you say, I am not, you're manifesting conscious manifestation. You're co-creating the wrong thing unconsciously because you're constantly saying, I'm not like Dr. Wayne Dyer, I am not like Eckhart. So to oppose that limiting belief, and that would be a limiting belief, because we have infinite potential, no matter who it is, whether it's Travis, Louise, Lakshmi, every human is, all of creation is the same one consciousness. The ego is imbued with the same one consciousness. There's nothing else in this world. The unmanifested became the manifest, right? So there's nothing else in this world. You are that one consciousness. So if you are that one consciousness, you may be even better than Eckhart. But how would you affirm it? Come join the group meditation and talk to all the members. There are 12, 13 people that come in. We have a discussion. Come talk. And that's public speaking. You're talking to total strangers, right? Initially now we are bonded. We have a core group that meets, so we kind of know each other. But like Travis accepted this opportunity, he's affirming to life that he wants to publicly speak, right, Travis?
Yeah.
This is the first time. I don't even know who Travis is. We've never met, and it's just a messenger. So message somebody, like we're having this Facebook Live, message me and ask me, hey Poonam, I want to be on the panel. Do you think I can come speak with y'all? I want to talk about Eckhart, or I want to talk about my psychic healing, right? How do you heal? And that's how you affirm that, hey, I can speak, right? And you don't compare, no comparison, drop the comparison and celebrate all the people that are speaking right in front of you right now. There's one consciousness in Travis, one consciousness in Louise, one consciousness in Kelly, one consciousness in Eileen that's speaking, right? So there is no other me speaking to me, right? So that's what I would say. That's a limiting belief. And the other thing is diet, right? Sinus infections, don't eat too much dairy, try and eat clear liquids. A lot of clear liquids in plant-based,
Yep.
move to a plant-based diet. IBS is the same thing, eat yogurt. Yogurt is better for IBS, but it's something in your diet as well, physical body. So the more you inhabit and listen to your body will tell you what it needs.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're not listening to your body, like Kelly says. Definitely not listening to your body. With that many years of IBS, not listening to your body. Cecile says, in one of the discussions before, Poonam discussed briefly on the subject about protecting auras. How can we protect it in places where there is too much unconsciousness? I think we are, this may be the last question. Maybe we can pick up the other question in the next round. Do you all want to come next week? Travis, Kelly, and Louise, are y'all available Wednesday at the same time?
Yep.
Sorry, my computer
I am.
froze for a second there. Okay. I won't be able to. I'm actually going to be leaving on a couple week-long work trip.
Okay.
So it'll be a couple of weeks before I'm able to come back.
Just message me and let me know when you'll be available. It's always
Okay,
Wednesdays
I will.
at the same time. We will answer the very last question and then we can, and I know it's getting late for Eileen. The last question is...
This is the last question anyway. The other ones were follow-ups to questions from Kelly and Travis. So that's just notes from
Okay, okay,
April.
perfect. Thank you. So Cecile says, in one of the discussions before, Poonam discussed briefly on the subject about protecting auras. How can we protect it in places where there's too much unconsciousness? Kelly, you want to start?
Sure.
Thank you.
There are two main things that I do. Well, actually, there's three, but The two simplest ones. The first one is a Qigong visualization. And that is to visualize a silver thread running from the sun down through the body, through the center of the body, down into the earth, and to reach with your mind and your awareness through the body, visualize it going down through your body, down through your bones, and connecting with the earth. The reason why this is so important is because the earth's energy, the earth's chi, is perfectly balanced all the time. So when you actually go down into the earth or connect your awareness with the earth, you're actually connecting with such a deep reservoir of balanced energy, of solid support. Like literally, I mean, the earth is underneath us, supporting us wherever we go, walking, driving, or anything. Silver thread, visualizing your awareness dropping down through your body and connecting with the earth, even pretending that you're on a beach and you have bare feet in the sand and you're sort of like making balls with your toes. Got to reference the movie Die Hard here, that whole scene where Bruce Willis is in the room with his bare feet and the toes in the rug and making balls with his feet. I just giggled the first time I saw that scene, because that was literally one of the first mindfulness practices that I ever taught myself, was how to do that with my feet and how to feel my feet that way. The other thing that I do is that I use a mantra. And the basic mantra that I do is I am love. I am love, I am love, I am love, I am love, I am love. And I just repeat it. I use I am love or I am light. And those two things I use to shift my headspace. If I feel pressure or if I feel a lot of agitation in the room, those are two, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Shiva, Om, there's any mantra that you feel resonates with your heart. But I like using I am love, I am light, because those two acknowledge yourself and your own presence using those words and those sequences. And just the sheer weight of repetition helps shift the vibration in your energy field. And I found have been very beneficial for helping maintain my energy space.
Perfect. Great pointers, Kelly. Hopefully, Cecile uses them. Travis, do you want to say something about holding auras in an unconscious, in places where there's a lot of unconsciousness?
Sure. I would say that the most fundamental thing to do is to come to. I know the sound could sound very big or maybe very vague, but to come to know oneself on as deep a level as possible, and to move as deeply into oneself as possible, into yourself as possible, because through that, I'll kind of echo what you were saying, Kelly, a bit, because I think one comes to realize you come into a very deep state of knowingness of yourself as that deepest love, and knowing that it's all pervasive, and that nothing threatens it.
Yep.
And so that's and so it really is being in that, and it's actually and being in those kinds of environments sometimes can throw us into a heightened sense of presence and awareness and realization, where we realize that deeper love as who we are, as what everything is, and again, that it can't be threatened, that love conquers all is true. And so you can be there, but it does, I think it does require a tremendous degree, depending on the environment you're in, of relaxed, alert awareness and presence to do that. But it can be kind of fun. I've had times even in dreams where I feel like I've been encountered by spirits or in life situations, and it could be really almost kind of enthralling or fun or pleasing to offer love in the face of something that would otherwise seem so threatening. So
Amen. Amen. Well said.
yeah, thanks. Yeah, I hope that's useful. Yeah.
Thank you, Travis. Perfect. The offer of love unconditionally. Louise?
That's kind of along the same lines that that came to me was in situations like that is trying to flip it around and like sending out love and sending out peace or sending out, and as you are thinking that and feeling that, you can actually sense it low, the vibration or the emotion or whatever's going on at the time, you change, shift. So I do think that that's that little mantra that's you're sending out. Yep. And I think that's pretty effective.
Perfect. Sending out love.
Sending out love.
What I would say is every space or whatever city we are in, whatever geographic location we are in, if you move away from the city, there's nature, right? So sitting in meditation, like put your devices down. I do it at home itself. I put my device down and I sit outside in the patio, just looking at the sky, listening, like really sense perceptions, right? Listening to the wind, listening to the birds chirp, right? So that's like using nature to become a meditation, like you're focusing on the sounds of nature. Because what it is if just imagine if we were not in this industrial civilization, we were out in the fields in a tent, right? So we would already be synced with nature. The high vibrational frequency, like Kelly and I are so into the high vibrational frequency, right? We would be here already, but we are getting dropped because there's so much negativity. First of all, collective consciousness, then the country we are in, the state we are in, city, family, all that plays in, all those frequencies, negative those bubbles are traveling around us, right? So the best thing is expose yourself to nature, meditation, Qigong, yoga. All these are tools to center yourself. And still, if I'm not mistaken, in the Philippines, they may be temples, right? There may be certain places that can raise, we've talked about this, right? The geographic location of certain places raises your vibrational frequency just by being in that space. So if you can travel to that type of a temple, right? In India, where Ramana Maharshi was, there's a temple and you can just feel it in the, you don't even have to go into the inner sanctum, just entering the courtyard and you'll just like ground yourself, like that inhabiting the body will be in there. So that's what I would say. And no judgments about the unconsciousness. Just the answer today would be, or the ending of today would be on raise the one thing, one focus, alignment with inner beingness, raise your vibrational frequency. That'll help with the self-sabotage, that'll help with any of these feelings. Unconditional love, and that vibrational frequency is the frequency of unconditional love. The heart, what did you say? Be centered with your heart, right? In sync with your heart. You can only be in sync with your heart when you are at your highest vibrational frequency, which is, and if you cannot go anywhere, you're somehow shelter in place, locked down, whatever it may be, because of the country you live in, go inwards.
Mm-hmm.
Inwards is infinite depth, as is outwards, the sky, both are equally, the macrocosm and the microcosm both work perfectly. Is that good? This was exciting. I
Yes.
enjoyed myself immensely, exhilarating, an honor and a privilege to be with you all.
Yes, thank you.
So
Thank
filled with
you.
Yeah,
gratitude.
thank you all so much.
And with
Thank you so much.
everyone that asked questions,
Yes, thank you.
right? Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, everyone.
Have a
Thanks.
fantastic week.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.